Hey, your boy Matt here. So this video is intended to be a description of the men who raised me, my class background, and my frustrations with the middle and upper classes, and also a description of my qualifications as a junior psych, uh, which a title I can use once it goes back up on the website, negotiating that with APRA. But I'm going to talk to you about a bloke who I call Battlestone. I'm also going to talk to you about a man called Georgie. So Georgie's a real person. He's my first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach. In a lot of ways, he's the man who raised me. Not intentionally. I grew up in a situation where there were no good male role models, and Georgie ended up being it. And I don't think he realized it, but he taught me how to be a bro. He taught me how to be just a decent person. And uh, I don't think he would ever think of himself like this or in that way because he's such a humble bloke. But he really did it. So his background is that he's the most working class man you could meet. I'd actually say in some points he's been underclass, and I don't want to describe that too much, but I've learned a lot of different things about a lot of different biker gangs and all kinds of interesting in and outs of different cultures that most people would never know. And I know that because of Georgie. But he's the kind of guy who's able to tell you what things are like because he's lived a life, and he's able to tell you what to avoid because he's learned everything from it. And anytime there's been a crisis, I've given him a call and he's given me good advice. More than that, when I'm in Toowoomba, I give him a call and he's there for me. He will be there for me in an hour or 2 hours in a crisis to get me out of it. I've had to go to his house a couple of times when I've gotten in over my head in some hectic shit that I had no business in being in. But he is the contrast to a lot of the people who I've met in Australian healthcare, and particularly psychology, which is the most middle class, pretentious bullshit you can imagine. So remember, I come from a family which is lowest middle class. My dad was a teacher, but he got destroyed in his work. He had a lot of violent kids. He ended up being on disability for the rest of his life. My mother, she didn't have a job since a full-time job since she had her kids. So money was there, but it wasn't overflowing. And there's always been an emphasis on education in my family, but they didn't provide me the moral leadership I needed, and men like Georgie did. And Georgie taught me to appreciate the trades, to appreciate hard work, people's skill, and just not being pretentious and just being able to get along with everyone. He had friends from the lowest parts of society, and his best mate who taught him all he knew about lifting. Well, he taught himself a lot about that because he was also a bodybuilder on top of a jiu-jitsu athlete. Was this very successful surgeon? He could get along with everyone. He was completely unpretentious. Now, Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone's a character in a Hornblower novel, right? So remember, I have a bit of a naval bearing. I went to the Naval College. That's how I learned how to lead people, whether I like it or not, and where a lot of cultural connections and culture was put into me. Till the day I die, unfortunately, I am a member of the military community. That means it's just as much as being like you're indigenous, you can't really escape it. You're part of this network. Now, in the Hornblower novels, what you learn is that what I really learned reflecting on it is how complex all the relationships are, particularly in the British Navy. Britain in general, they have this idea of you have lords, you have the middle class, you have the lower class, and you have all these different groups, and each needs to give reverence to the other based on some petty bullshit. And there's Mr. Stone character, And his deal is that Hornblower's on his ship. Hornblower's a captain, he's a commander, but because of whatever legal reason, Hornblower's not in charge of the ship. Whilst they're there, it talks about all this just petty bullshit and how they address each other in conversation, about deferring and pretending to be humble, and Hornblower pretending to be humble with his language to give this guy an ego boost. And it's like, what the fuck? Just shut up. Just respect the person based on their trade and you're fine. Well, regardless of their trade, and appreciate their work and their contribution. Now, that brings me to a very middle class bloke, and I'm calling him Mr. Stone in my story. Now, Mr. Stone is a former colleague I had when I was working at an NGO. He was a psychiatric nurse. He wasn't a psych. In the pecking order, if we have to create one, he's down the hierarchy from the psychs. Nurses cannot provide diagnosis, psychiatric diagnosis. They have limited authority when they're writing reports. They're kind of just there as a helping hand. Well, not just, but often it's like that. They take direction from doctors. They have limited administrative authority. And that's what Mr. Stone was and is. He is not trained to be able to do diagnosis. I don't know if he knows the difference between an ANOVA and a regression, so I don't even know if he understands statistics. But he has a beef with me because was a junior psych in part of the 4+2 program, and he completed a master's degree at a very fancy university for his nursing degree. And you know what? Power fucking to him. Like, if there wasn't a case of his pettiness in the world that I now understand he lives in, based on reading this book and reflecting on it, I would have a lot less problems with him than I do. Because he was British, and or at least spent a lot of time in Britain, and his bearing is very middle class. He does not see the world the way Georgie does. He sees the world in this very unnecessarily complex and pretentious way, with titles and deferences. And for him, me coming into his workplace with the bearing I have from an underclass, working class background and not playing this deference game is the most insulting thing possible for him. And on top of that, in this corny pecking order where I'm a captain and he isn't even an officer, is unbearable. So, let me describe to you my qualifications. This might be a separate take.